So this is a painting video for Maulerfiend. We just finished him here, and as you can see, he looks pretty intimidating. If you like the way this guy looks, or if you have one you want to paint up yourself, and you want some instruction or some directions on how to do it, feel free to stay tuned here to this guide. If you like videos like this, please feel free to share it, or leave a comment, or at even best, subscribe to the channel. Every subscription helps, and we will show you how we painted this bad fella. So stay tuned, and you can watch the painting video now. This is going to be a painting video on how to paint a Maulerfiend. So we built him up as a Maulerfiend instead of a Forge Fiend, just because with the Vex Macchinator, they buff these guys in close combat. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to run this guy as a close combat guy. So the first thing we did with this model is we primed him with Wraith Bone Spray. And we did that just because that's all we had. Corax White would work just as well. We just needed something to use as a base coat. First color we're going to start with is we're going to do all of the fleshy bits. So that's the arms, as well as the legs, as well as all the stuff underneath here. So we're going to do all that with a base coat of Rakarth Flesh. And that'll give us our base to start working on our fiend. I'm going to take a little bit of that Rakarth Flesh, and we're just going to start painting over any areas of fleshy bits, just like this. Using a watered down layer, so we may have to do it twice. But in any case, this is kind of our plan here. Just like so. So we'll keep doing that on all the rest of the fleshy bits, and we'll meet back here in a few minutes. So now that we finished with our Rakarth Flesh base, as you can see, we've got most of the areas here that are fleshy bits. What we're going to do now is shade all of that, and we're going to shade that with some Reikland Fleshshade. So we'll do that now, and that'll bring out some of the fleshier tones. I'll take a little bit out of here. We'll just add some shade there. Just like so. Trying to make sure it pools into the areas that we want it to. Don't worry if it makes a mess, because we are going to come over and do most of the other parts here later. There's a lot of metal pieces jagging, sticking out. That's going to go metal, as well as the armor that'll go black and gold for Black Legion. Then it matches some of our other units, and we can kind of use it as a for most of the Legion choices. So we'll keep doing that like so, and we'll be back here in a few minutes when it's dry. So this is our model now that we've finished with the Reikland Fleshshade, and it is not your imagination. We do have more done than we had before. I like the way it turned out on the arms and the legs, so I went back and did the neck and the rest of the undercarriage here. My intention is to have the entire thing fleshy with metal underneath, same as the rest of the arms, and it created a nice uniform pattern throughout the whole body, and I kind of liked that consistency there. So while I usually would have painted that as a metallic more, I think we're going to do it as flesh with metal coming through, even though it's going to make the fine detailing a whole lot more complicated when we do it later. So now for dry brush over the top of this, we have two choices. We can go paler or we can go healthier. So either one would work. We can go Cadian Fleshtone, which would lighten up that and create a bit more healthy pinkish flesh. Or we can go Pallid Witch Flesh, which would make it a little bit more pale and deathly. Now, in the Vex Macchinator, we did this one. And in the Venom Crawler, we did that one, as well as the previous Obliterators. I think I like to try a little bit healthier this time. And I'm going to leave that. But either one would work. The steps are the exact same at this point, and this is the last highlight layer I think we're going to do on the skin anyway. So it's up to you which choice you do, but I think I'm going to go with some dry brush Cadian Fleshtone. All we're going to do is take a little bit of a dry brush there, and then just start going over some of these areas here, like so. That makes it a little bit healthier. A little bit of a pink glow to it, just like that. So as you can see here, it basically just trims out some of the consistency from the shade. So we'll do that for most of the rest of the model. We'll be back here in a few minutes. So with our dry brush of Cadian Fleshtone finished, we've smoothed out all the surfaces here. So now there's a nice little shine to it, and all the unevenness from the shade is gone. So what we're going to do is actually add one more highlight layer just over the top of that, very, very lightly. And it will be a highlight layer of Kislev Flesh, which is a little bit lighter than the Cadian Fleshtone. And we're just going to hit just the top highest points, just to add one more layer of depth there. So we're going to do that now. So we're just going to dry that brush off a little bit, and then just lightly hit these top areas here, just like that. Same thing on this side here. Just to lighten it up a little bit, like so. So we're going to do that for the rest of the model, and we'll be back here once that's done. So now that we finished with the fleshy bits, we're going to move on to doing the armor as the next step. So we're going to take a little bit of Abaddon Black, and we're going to start coating all of the armor panels on our model. We don't have to be super neat, but we are going to keep filling in all of these panels all over the model, and then we'll meet back here again when we're finished. This is our model now that the black Abaddon Black armor plates have been finished. So what we're going to do now is add some depth to them. So what we're going to do is add a dry brush layer of Eshen Grey right over all the armor plates that are already done Abaddon Black. So just like this, just a light dry brush there, just to add a depth to it. And we'll finish the model and be back in a few minutes with some more. So this is our model as we've done the dry brush on Eshen Grey, and I intentionally left one piece undone. So as you can see here, it's definitely grayish, it's blended in, the entire black looks shiny and smooth, but this part here looks flat. So I zoom in a bit more, you'll see that this one definitely has the gray film on it, and then this one is just straight flat black. So that's what the dry brush does, and we just dry brush it straight across like so. So I left those ones black as well, and as you can see when you zoom in, the brush strokes and stuff are there, whereas when you move up here, it generally looks much more smooth. So that's why we add an edge highlight to the Abaddon Black of the Eshen Grey. So we'll finish up these two pieces here, and we'll be back in a few minutes. So now that we're finished with the Eshen Grey highlight layer, what we're going to do now is move on to the metallics. So this includes all of the whip coils, as well as the tongue coming out, as well as the side ports here, as well as all of this chest piece, and this pelvic piece here, as well as all of the cabling and all of the bare spots of cabling all throughout the body, as well as all of the mechanics that are throughout the arms and legs of the Daemonforge engine. So all of that is going to take a base coat of Leadbelcher. So we're going to start picking away at that now. So this is our model now that we finished with the metallic. And as you can see, it was quite a job. We got all of the details in and amongst this, the arms, as well as the cabling here, as well as all of the whip coils, all of the machinery inside, all of the details on the back legs as well, all of the details on the tail, including the spots where the flesh has gone off, and then the other legs just the same. So all of this detail was picked out specifically because we didn't want to go over any of the skin because we had already finished that part of the layer. So in any case, we are now finished with our metallic layer, and what we're going to do now is, with a little bit of Nuln Oil, we're going to shade in all of the metal as well as the edges of all of these black armor panels. So it'll be more of a directed shade. We don't want to get too much on the skin itself because we don't want any more highlight layers there. We don't want to get too much on the armor as well because we don't have any highlight layers left there. That's done. But we do want to clean up these edges a little bit. We definitely want to shade these wires and cabling. So after we're finished all of that, we'll meet back here again. But for now, we're just going to do that directed shade with Nuln Oil. So this is our model now that we finished with the Nuln Oil shade. And as you can see, we really brought out a lot of the detail and all of the whip coils, as well as all the gears and mechanics on the arms, as well as the barren cabling on the neck. So now that we've done all of that, we're going to add a highlight dry brush layer over all the metallics. And we're going to do that with some Ironbreaker. And we're just going to dry brush that right on all the high points here, just lighting the metallics back up before we move on. So this is our model now that we've finished with the Ironbreaker. So as you can see, it's much, much shinier. And we've lit up the color, the metallics, quite a lot. So that'll finish our metallics. And now our fleshy bits are done, our metallics are done, our black armor is done. What we're going to do now is move on to the trim. And for that, we're going to use a base of Retributor Armor. So we'll put that in pretty much in all the trim areas here. And then we'll be back here in a few minutes. So this is our model now that the Retributor Armor is finished. And a couple of notes. With the amount of work that there was to paint this, as well as to go back and fix any mistakes, I would say that if I did this again, I would very likely do the black for do the gold first, and then just paint the black in the spaces, as opposed to the other way around. The trim, if there was an empty space missed, needed to be go back and filled in, and it was a massive amount of detailed work. That would have been a lot easier had I done them in the reversed order. Now the reason I did them in this order is because the shade that's going to go on the gold is the same as the shade that's going to go on a few other parts, and I kind of wanted to do all the shading at once. But in hindsight, I think it would have been easier to do it the other way. So the smokestacks here are going to get a base layer of Balthasar Gold. And we'll do those up now, and we'll meet back here again in a few moments. So now our Balthasar Gold smokestacks here are done. And as you can see, the model's coming along nicely. So what we're going to work on now are the teeth down here. So we're going to work on the teeth here, and we're going to start that with a base coat of Zandri Dust. So we'll do that now. We're just going to do the teeth here. And we are going to come in with a shade after, so it doesn't matter if you make a mess between the teeth, just don't get it on the skin. Just like so. So we'll finish this up. We'll meet back here in another few minutes. So now that we're finished with the teeth, what we're going to do is start our shade. So we're going to use some Agrax Earthshade, and that'll darken the gold up. It'll also allow us to shade the copper, as well as all of the Zandri Dust teeth and horns. So we're going to do all of that now, shading all that in, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Now we're going to make this a directed shade, so we're only really going to put it on the areas we want. But I want to really darken up this gold, so we may do it a couple of times. Push it around where we need it here. Just like so, just adding a little bit of depth and such to our gold, as well as getting all the areas at the edges where it blends into the black here. So we're going to keep working at this, and we'll be back here in a few moments to see how it turned out. So now that we finished all our shades, we're going to start building the highlights back up. So we'll start with the gold trim, and what we're going to do first there is we're going to highlight it with some Runelord Brass, which is a little bit more bronzy than gold, but that should help make the beast a little darker here. So we'll do that now. I'm going to take a little bit of that Runelord Brass. We're just going to dry brush it right over all these high points. We're not going to do the whole model, not all of the gold, but just the high points, especially this big 8-pointed star here in the center. And because we went heavy on the shade, we'll have a 2 or 3 tone effect here with the dark shade bits, the underlying gold bits, and then the highlight bits like so. You see how that creates a much better shade color pattern than what we had originally. We'll just dry brush all these high points here, work on the head and the helmet, the tentacles, and we'll meet back here in a few minutes. Now that we finished with that highlight, we're going to highlight the brass, and for that we're going to use some brass scorpion, of which we're going to dry brush right over the top there. Once again, just picking out the highest points. We don't have to do the whole model. Just want to hit all the places where the light hits. Sort of like that, and you get that two-tone approach now. So we'll do the rest of that, and we'll meet back here again. The next part we're going to do now that we finished that is to do some Screaming Skull and highlight the teeth where we've already base coated and shaded them. So a little bit of Screaming Skull. We're just going to pick out the teeth. And we're going to highlight them like that. So we'll do that. We'll keep going with this, and we'll be back here in a few minutes. So our next step that we're going to do is we're going to start adding some of the glowing areas on the smokestacks, as well as on the engine compartments underneath. So we're going to do all those and have a nice demonized glow coming off of those. So we'll do that now. And what that starts with is with the center done with a Yriel Yellow. So we're going to do that right now. So our first step is to use a nice watered down layer of Yriel Yellow. And with that we're going to cover the vents in each of the chest piece here. So just like so. And this nice central yellow glow right there. So we'll do it for each one, and we'll meet back here in a few moments. Effectively, to get the glow we want for Khorne Red, we've mixed it to this consistency, which is really just a watered down wash. And then we just put that right over the area. Let it filling in just the grooves and the cracks like that. And as it dries, it'll create that glow. Our next glaze is of Evil Sunz Scarlet, and as you can see, we've watered it out quite a bit, like so. Now, there's not much consistency there. So that is the next color we're going to add to our undercarriage here. That's actually a little bit too strong still. It should only be about that strength there. I'll just add that to all of our areas, letting it pool in the corners. Like so. So we've got our glow slowly building its way here. So we'll leave that for a few minutes. So as you can see, that wash has done really nicely. It's lit up inside of all these chimneys, as well as the outside glow of all of these vents now. So we'll leave that dry, and then we'll move on to our last set. For our last glaze layer, we're going to take a little bit of Wild Rider Red, watered down the same way we did the other ones, and just drop it right into that area there. Just like so. Same thing over here. Just like that, and we'll leave those dry, and as they dry, the undercolors will start coming out. At the same time, we'll put in some of these smokestacks as well. And all we're doing was just filling them up. And as they dry, the color will shrink back, showing the underneath color. So this is our final product with the glow, and as you can see, the faces have allowed the orange to pool in the inside, and you've got this darkening glow on the outside, so it looks quite nice. Underneath, you've got the yellowish center, and then it pools off into darker reds in the corners. So what you've got is a nice demon glow there for any demon engines that you tend to be running. So one of our last steps is going to be to take a little bit of Mephiston Red and do the eye. I'm going to do that with a very detailed brush, as pointy as we can get. I'm just going to lightly just like that. We'll do the same thing on the other side. And then we'll probably base him and clear coat him and meet back here when he's all ready. So this is our finished Maulerfiend now that we've clear coated it and basted it. And as you can see, it looks pretty nice. All of the flaming stacks, as well as the face, the claws, all of the detail. I really like the way it turned out. If you like the way this turned out as well, if you're happy with the way yours did, or if you just happen to enjoy this video, please feel free to leave a like, or leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. All of that helps, and we'll see you on the next time we do a painting video. Thanks for watching.